What's up, amigos? My name is Gabriel Paredes, and welcome to episode 2 of the Gabe on the Grind podcast. So in today's episode, we are going to be talking about how successful people are able to take defining moments, life experiences, and put them in the right box, the box that serves them, opposed to the box that's causing them harm. I believe that's crucial for you to do at the beginning of 2021 to give you a legitimate shot, the best shot at doing something big in 2021. So hang in there, my friends. Here we go. Hey everyone, thank you very much for sticking around. My name is Gabriel Paredes, and welcome to the Gabe on the Grind podcast, where I grind to save you time. And in today's episode, my friends, we are going to be talking about something that I believe is a must to give you the foundation, or at least some nuggets for you to have the best shot at turning your goals and your dreams into action and eventually reality in 2021. I believe that it is crucial for us to make these decisions early on in 2021. Now, a little bit about me. I'm a business owner. I've been in business for myself for many years. I actually own a financial planning company where we have 1,300 agents in over 25 states throughout the country. And I'm also a restaurant and bar owner here in Los Angeles, California. I own 3 bars and restaurants, and we're looking to expand in 2021. So enough about me, my friends. Let's get right into it. I've spent 22 years of my life studying and analyzing, and almost an addiction to understanding how successful people succeed, how they make decisions, how they navigate through the entrepreneurial world. It's something that I am extremely passionate about, partially because I want to be very successful. I want to continue to grow my wealth. I want to continue to grow my empire. So in studying these successful people and these stories, I have learned that they have a very unique way of how they think, right? So for example, a lot of times people think that, or the old saying goes that I have to see it to believe it. One thing that I've learned about successful people is that a lot of times they believe it first and then they see it. They have to believe it in their mind. They have to manifest it first, and then they actually bring those ideas, those goals, those dreams, and bring them to life. Now, something else that I've learned, and which is going to be the primary focus of this topic today, is how to categorize life experiences to serve you, not harm you, right? So I don't know if you guys have heard this story about the elephant, right? Everybody knows these are amazing, beautiful, huge animals that weigh a couple tons. And most of these elephants that are kept in either a circus type environment or at the zoo, from birth, these elephants are actually tied to a chain around their neck or a rope, and there's a stake in the ground where they are just pretty much staying put, right? So they try to pull away and they can't. And then they get a little bit older and they try to pull away and they can't. And before you know it, as years go on, these elephants that at one point were baby elephants are now massive beasts. These things could literally just tear down the entire circus tent if they wanted to. But a lot of times you'll notice that that rope is still tied to that stake that's in the ground, and they continue to stay in place. And part of the reason being is that they have been trained that the limitations that they have is that rope, the length of that rope. That's as far as they're going to go. And in many cases, life experiences kind of do that to all of us. So we're going to be talking about finding your why, right? We've all heard this before. It could be a little corny. Some of us think of it as maybe this is just some motivational type thing. But I'm telling you that successful people also know exactly. They are laser focused and have a very clear understanding on why they are doing things. Now, sometimes we don't know our why. We don't know the reason why we're doing something, and it doesn't bring out that emotion within us. So we have to find something called defining moments. Now, defining moments are something that we've all had in our life, right? So I'm going to give you a few examples on what some of my defining moments have been, how I've been able to categorize them properly, right? And before I do so, here it is. There's 2 boxes where you could put life experiences in. And the emotions and the the pain that they maybe have brought you in the past, and that experience in general. You could put them in box A. And in box A, there's going to be a lot of negativity. There's going to be a lot of justification and excuses. There's going to be a lot of poor thinking. There's going to be a lot of negative emotion. And the ultimate thing is there's going to be a lot of, this is why I'm not succeeding. Almost like that elephant and that stake in that ground with that rope, we are tied to box A. Now, successful people have a very unique way of taking those same experiences and putting them in box B, letting them live in box B. And in box B, it's very interesting because there in that box, you have a lot of, this is why I'm winning. There's a lot of positivity, a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of strength, a lot of belief and perseverance. There's a lot of rich thinking, not poor thinking. There's a lot of belief, and there's a lot of energy that comes from this box. So in my quest to finding my why and pulling from the box that serves me, I have found that one of my defining moments was as a child. As a child, I grew up in Highland Park. Highland Park is a small community here in Los Angeles. And at the time, when I first moved there, I was 8 years old. It was a very dangerous place to live. It was considered to be one of the most dangerous cities in the entire country. And you saw everything in that city. There was a lot of gang violence. There was a lot of drug addiction. There was a poverty. There was a lot of crime in general. As a matter of fact, I grew up on a street called Burwood. And on this street, you could look out my front door and look into the living room of the home that would provide all the gang members and addicts drugs. It was a crack house, drug house, whatever you want to call it. And growing up in that environment, I saw many things, right? As a matter of fact, my parents couldn't afford to live anywhere else. My mom and dad worked in factories, both in Glendale, California. My dad worked in one where he was working 5-6 days a week, loading thousands of pounds on trucks, unloading thousands of pounds off of trucks. And he did that for 10 hours a day. My mom worked in a factory, kind of in an assembly line, where she also did a lot of heavy lifting and so on and so forth, but on her feet all day. These were very physically demanding jobs. And as a child, I remember a specific incident where I started noticing my father getting a little slower, just walking with a little bit of a limp, and his body used to actually turn a little bit to the right. He was just kind of didn't look normal, in other words. And he used to have this pain look in his eyes. And I would always ask him, Dad, are you okay? And of course, my superhero, my father, Superman in the family, he would tell me that he's okay. And as time went on, this got worse, right? To the point where my mother actually booted my dad out of her room. He moved into my sister's room. My sister moved into my mom's room because she just couldn't sleep. He was tossing and turning and moaning all night from the pain. And the way the house was laid out is that you would have to walk through my sister's room to get to the room where my brother and I were. So now my dad was right next door to us and there was no door. And at night, I remember I got so kind of infatuated with checking on my dad. Every time I was in and out of sleep, I would, Dad, are you okay? Dad, are you okay? Because I would hear him tossing and turning, moaning, making these pain noises at night. And he would find words to tell me, or try to find words to reassure me that he's okay. And this got worse and worse throughout time. And eventually, my father just couldn't work anymore. They actually fired him from his job. Instead of moving him to a different department, he wasn't an asset anymore. He was a liability. They canned him. And things got dark at home. My brother and I started doing these little odd jobs, selling bubble gum, cutting lawns, washing people's windows, washing people's cars, things of that nature, just to help put food on the table. My mom started working a second job, graveyard shift. I mean, things just got really strenuous at home, very stressful at home. And my dad started selling cowboy boots. He would load my brother and I in his beat up white truck, and we would go around the neighborhood selling these cowboy boots to businesses, door to door. It kind of felt cool because we had our own little business going on. And I remember one day when we got home from selling boots, I crawled up under my dad's arm and I asked my dad if we were poor. I said, Dad, are we poor? That was something that would always concern me because I know it would cause stress to him and to my mom. And my dad said, I could see him struggling to find the words. And he looked at me and he says, son, did you eat today? And I said, yes. And he says, do you have shoes on your feet? And I said, yes. He says, then you're not poor. And I was like, oh man, I don't even know why I asked that question. He reassured me. That was the reassurance that I needed to make me feel that we weren't poor anymore. But I knew that it wasn't normal, the situation that we were in, compared to some of the friends and family that we had. So during that same conversation, my dad told me something that I'll never forget. He said, "Son, we live in the United States of America, and in this country, things are fair. And one day I'm going to have a shot at going in front of a jury." He was explaining it in kid talk, in front of these people, in front of this man that's going to make a decision, which is the judge. And I'm going to tell my story because he had this claim that he filed with his employer. And we were excited. I said, "Oh my God, I can't wait for this day. I want to see this life being put back into my dad." I thought that after this day, he wouldn't be in pain anymore. And months went by. And a year went by. And I must have been maybe 9 years old at the time. And the day finally came where my dad said, "Tomorrow we're going to court." And I remember it was the same feeling that I had as if he would have told me we're going to Disneyland. I just wanted to go to sleep early so I could wake up the next day and experience my dad finally winning, finally sharing his story, finally not being in pain anymore. So the day came, we loaded up into his beat up white truck. We were in our best Sunday clothes, and my dad's playing the jams. He's all done up. He put some cologne on, which he rarely did. And we show up to this courthouse. And when we show up there, everybody's just pissed off. There was a room full of people, and everybody's being called up. You know, they're calling numbers. We must have been there for about 2 hours before this man actually flagged my dad over. And my dad looks at my brother and I, and he says, "Okay, it's game time. This is our time." And we were expecting, we were like, "Okay, when's the show going to start? When is the people going to come out that are going to listen to him?" My dad only spoke Spanish. So where's the interpreter? Where's the people that are going to be interpreting what my dad's saying, translating what my dad's saying to the judge? None of that happened, my friends. What ended up happening is that 3 to 5 minutes later, this man talks to the judge, this other man talks to the judge, the two attorneys, and the whole thing was over. I remember that moment where my dad just looked defeated. He looked devastated. I remember he turned around after he got news whispered in his ear by his attorney, and he looked at my brother and I will never forget that experience, that life experience, that look on my dad's face of desperation, of guilt, of pain. And I tell you this story to tell you that life experience, right? I could have chosen, and still at 43 years old, let it live wherever I want that experience to live. I could have let it live in box A, where it could cause me nothing but pain and victimization and excuses and justification for me not taking action. I came from less than privileged backgrounds. Or I could take that experience, and whenever the going gets tough, I pull into that box and I suck out the emotion that I felt, the decision that I made as a child, where I said, "This is the last time I'm ever going to see that look on my dad's face." And that emotion out of box B, right, will help carry me through some of life experiences on my entrepreneurial journey to succeed. So that is the defining moment number one. Here's number two. All right, so defining moment number two. Defining moment number two is a very interesting one because I grew up not necessarily doing very well in school. As you can imagine, I was more concerned about survival. I was more concerned about helping my parents put food on the table, about not getting shot in the neighborhood that I grew up in. I wasn't too concerned about history, the U.S. history or English or whatever other topics school was talking about. So I grew up not necessarily being the best student, and I had these learning disabilities where I just couldn't learn as fast as most kids. I couldn't read that well. My grammar was jacked up. And I went through my elementary, junior high, and then eventually high school with that, knowing that I wasn't going to go to college and knowing that I had these disabilities, these learning disabilities, and knowing that my reading and writing skills were just horrible. So when I graduated from high school, I told my mom, I'm going to go to the Marines. I heard that they have some programs. I get out of the Marines, and then I get a good job, and then I help out the family. So sure enough, I signed up for a gym in preparation to go to the gym, to the Marines. And I signed up to a gym called Bally Total Fitness in the city of Pasadena. And being a member there, I would go every day after school, and I befriended everybody, the staff, some of the members. We had a little workout group going on. I had a bunch of friends there. And one day the manager tells me, Gabe, it looks like everybody likes you. You have good conversation skills. Do you want a job? And I said, oh my gosh, how do I tell this guy? I was like, well, do I have to read or write a lot? Because my reading and writing is horrible. And he says, no, you just have to have, again, good conversation skills, be able to sell things and understand numbers. And I said, oh man, I understand numbers. I could be around a bunch of hot girls all day. At the time, it mattered a lot. I was a kid. And I get to come to work in my gym clothes. I was like, I'm in, let's do this. And what I found is that I actually started climbing up the ranks. I was outworking most people. I was staying later, coming in earlier, just working and working on myself a lot. And I ended up becoming a sales manager and then a general manager. And then eventually I became an area supervisor, which means that I was in charge of multiple gyms. And I was making really good money. I was making over six figures. I bought my first house at the age of 21, and life seemed great at the time. And I met a gentleman there, and he introduced me to the financial services business. He was in real estate doing well. He got into financial services, and he was killing it. He was doing really well financially. And he would call me just about every week, and I finally jumped ship. I said, let's do this. If this guy could do it, I could do it. And when I went into financial services, I quickly found out that I had to pass some serious exams. It's actually called the Series 6, the Series 63, and the life insurance exam. And each one of these exams had about this much reading material. And I said, my God, I am never going to be able to do this, right? Again, my limiting thoughts at the time were, my reading is horrible. What takes me 3 hours to read takes most people 20 minutes. There's no way in hell I'm going to be able to pass these exams. So time went on, and my time was running out for me to take these exams. As a matter of fact, they give you something called a window, which means that you pay a fee and they give you a certain amount of time for you to take these exams, or you have to pay the fee again and then wait a few months to take the exam again. And I just didn't have that time. My savings was running out. So I said, I'm going to do it. And I remember locking myself up in my bedroom and just studying. I'm talking about 18-hour days. All I left my bedroom for was to eat and shower and use the restroom, and that was it, right? I actually hired a tutor. I told this tutor, look, it's going to be weird. I have roommates. We can't be in the living room. It's you and me in the room. Teach me what I need to know to pass these damn tests. And sure enough, the time came. I took my Series 63, passed it. And I remember that feeling. I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. They must have made a mistake. And I remember the Series 6 came 4 days later, actually 3 days later, and I passed the Series 6, which was the biggest one of them all. And the following week, I passed my life insurance exam. So what took me so long and I was so scared of, I actually dominated these 3 exams. In a week and a half period, I passed all 3. Now, that is a defining moment in my life that I will never, ever forget. And I'll tell you why, my friends. Now, what I got out of this defining moment is this, is that whenever I have an obstacle that comes my way, I always choose to dip into that box and pull out that confidence, that energy of perseverance that I felt and I experienced during the time of pushing that button and passing these exams. And I pull that from that box in order to guide me and to push me forward and to win in any particular challenge that's coming my way. But I'm aware of that defining moment. I know when to pull into that box of defining moment, right? So I'm going to share with you one more defining moment. I hope that you're getting some value out of this. And here it is. Okay, everyone. So here is life experience defining moment number 3. Now, defining moment number 3, my friends, used to be something that was extremely difficult for me to talk about for a very long time, for years. Something that was devastating in my life, something that caused me stress, depression, and even anxiety. It got so bad to the point where I couldn't even drive to work sometimes. And I worked 10 minutes away from my home. I would have to pull over and literally call the paramedics on myself because I thought I was dying. I was having anxiety attacks. So I allowed this experience to live in the box that brought me a lot of harm, brought me a lot of victimization, brought me a lot of stress, depression, and everything that I just mentioned. And this experience didn't deserve that, to come to find out. So here it is. When I was 20 years old, I had two lives. I had my professional life where I was a sales manager. I had a staff. I was making good money. I was finally able to help my parents. And then I had my personal life where I was hanging out with the same group of friends that I had from either childhood or high school. And they were a bunch of good dudes. I mean, these guys were just good guys, liked to have fun, and they weren't gang members or doing anything crazy like that. But I remember one friend in particular. He was one of my very best friends, but he was a fighter. I mean, this guy didn't back down from anyone or anything. He just was a good dude, but you didn't want to cross him. And we ended up starting to throw parties. That's a thing that we did at the time. We had backyard parties. We would bring on a DJ. We did it for fun, and we also did it for some extra cash. We used to charge people at the door because we always had some of the best parties. More girls would show up. We used to charge at the door. That money would pay for the flyers. We didn't have Facebook or any social media at the time, so pay for the flyers and then extra cash to help my family out. And during this time, my buddy ended up beefing or feuding with these other guys. And things got, this happened for months and months and months. And things just got worse and worse and worse. But these guys weren't your regular guys. They were gang members. They had little to nothing to lose. They were just dangerous guys. So time went on. Things got kind of toned down. And we ended up showing up to a party one day. My buddy Ricky was driving. And we show up to this party and it's packed. There's a bunch of people there. And there's about 15 of my friends already there. And this particular guy that I mentioned that doesn't back down from anybody, he was there. And 10 minutes into the party, I hear a glass break. And I turn around and I look at him and he's cut from his forehead to his nose, like the top of his nose. And he's pissed, right? Somebody had broken a bottle on his head and he was bleeding. So I took off my shirt and I tied it around his head. And my first instinct also was just like, who the hell did this? We can't let this slide. In that type of neighborhood, you just didn't let that kind of stuff slide. But then people started coming up to us saying, you guys got to get out of here. These are gang members. They're going to go get guns. Everybody got to go. You guys got to go. It's dangerous. So we kind of scoped out the situation. People started scattering around the party and we said, let's go. So chaos broke loose. Everybody's running everywhere. I'm waiting in the front of that house or that the party was at, waiting for my friends to come out. Everybody looks like they left. And as I'm going to the car about 20 yards away from the place that the party was at, it was pitch black. I remember just seeing these sparks and hearing gunshots. And I said, please, God, don't let it be anyone, or especially any of my friends. So we get in the car, me and my buddy Ricky drive away, and eventually somebody runs up to the car and says, Gabe, so-and-so's down, so-and-so's down. And I said, what? What do you mean they're down? And they said, yeah, he's down. So I got off the car, I ran around the car that was in between me and, to come to find out, my buddy. And my friend was shot 5 times. Actually, 7 times. He was shot 5 times with a handgun, and he was shot twice with a shotgun. And I was holding him, and I just remember telling him that he's going to be okay. He's going to be okay. And he was struggling to breathe. And I actually think I saw him take his last breath. The paramedics got there, they shooed me away, and they took over, and we come to find out that he passed away that night. So, why do I tell you this defining moment, this life experience that I had? Well, because in my search, in my journey, in my addiction to understanding how successful people operate, what I've learned is that they don't only take business experiences, they take life experiences and take these life experiences, these defining moments, put them in the right box again, and they pull energy from these boxes whenever they need to. Now, this defining moment in my life actually lived in a box that was causing me a lot of harm. And it wasn't fair to me, and it wasn't fair to my buddy that passed away. It just wasn't fair to him. That his memory and my life was living in such a negative place. So I've taken, throughout time, it took me years to find this. I've taken this experience and put it in the box that does serve me. So what did I learn? I learned that life is short. I learned that you have to go balls to the wall. I learned that you have to take big risks. I learned that you have to fall on your face, dust yourself off, and get back up and start rolling. I learned that. That's what I take that experience and I put it in that box. Right. Now, if you're anything like me, I'm a first generation American. My parents were born in a different country. I don't come from generational wealth. I don't have a rich uncle. I don't have a mentor. I had to learn from my own life experiences and learn how to categorize these experiences. So, with that being said, I appreciate all of you guys joining me on this episode. I hope you learned something. I hope you got inspired. I hope that you sign up, register, subscribe, whatever you want to call it. I'm new to this stuff. I hope you tell your friends about it. And if you didn't like it, my friends, give me another shot. We're going to be talking about some great things. We're going to have guests on the show. We're going to interview successful entrepreneurs and also professionals in the different aspects of business to give you the best shot at putting your dreams into action and making them a reality. So with that said, cheers, amigos, and we'll see you next time.